Okay. We should be live here, if everything is working properly. Okay. Things are looking good. All right. So a couple of things really quickly. I'm going to be drawing today. I'm going to be drawing a submarine for Sunken Dungeon, which is coming on Kickstarter soon. You can go to antigames.com/Kickstarter to learn more about Sunken Dungeon Kickstarter when it comes. It's a papercraft coloring cut paper game RPG that you can play together. It's the sequel to the Cloud Dungeon, and it's great fun. All right. So we're going to be drawing a submarine. Now the question is, what kind of submarine do we want to draw? By the way, if you hear noise and screeching and such in the background, that's my children. They're having fun. Okay, so current thing I'm thinking is I would like to draw a submarine. Now these submarines are going to be seen from the side, and it's going to be one submarine per group. So you'll all share a submarine together, and ridiculous things will happen to the submarine. So it will get covered in starfish, or it will get a jellyfish entangled in its propeller, or it will get destroyed or blasted with various insane chemicals, stuff like that. Things will happen to your submarine throughout the course of play. Might get transformed into other things, and you will all kind of work on those changes together. So if for some reason it gets polka dots all over it, you will all work together to kind of color and evolve your sub as it goes. So it's going to be one full sheet of paper, and I'm thinking for this submarine I would like kind of a cross between a train car or a lorry and kind of a old classical four-door sedan kind of thing. And that makes a bit of sense in my head. It might not end up making sense when I start drawing it, so we'll adjust as needed. I do like submarines that are kind of shaped like that. So initially I'm of course going to be working as quickly as possible, which is just good practice. When you are creating kind of the first draft of anything, is to work quickly and just trust your instincts. And later we will question those instincts and pick them apart, but right now we will be trusting them. And of course I've got my reference pulled up in a different window. And this is, of course, Affinity Designer. Yeah, the program I'm using is Affinity Designer, which is a great, I believe it's Mac only piece of software that Affinity has been working for many years trying to create alternatives to Photoshop, Illustrator, Adobe software. And they've done a good job. Except we're having some... You know, I really should have started an Affinity photo. I pulled up the wrong piece of software. So we're going to go black for a moment or two. And not a whole lot is going to change for you, except the fact that we're going to be ever so slightly starting over. That's cool. Okay, so we've switched over to Affinity Photo because it is going to allow me to work quite a bit faster. So yeah, there are times for when drawing there and writing or doing anything creative. There are certainly times for trusting your instincts and times for questioning your instincts. But first draft sketch phase is certainly the time you want to trust your instincts and not really do a whole lot of kind of heavy thinking about what you're drawing. Now, this isn't to say you should never think about what you're doing and you should just let it, flow purely from your perfect self or anything, because I don't believe that for a moment. But it is important to understand that the creative and the analytical sides of your brain kind of operate independently from each other. So if you try to kind of create and edit it at the same time, you're not going to create particularly good work because the two parts of your brain are going to be fighting against each other. And this is part of the reason why I can draw competently while talking to you, because the verbose analytical part of my brain is happy to chat away while the other part of my brain just puts its head down and works. And in some ways it works better because the talking part of my brain really likes to interrupt things. Let's see. Because it kind of goes it kind of has holds all of the shortcuts and is really lazy, so it tries to really get us to, you know, draw things the way we already know how, rather than going into new territory and figuring out things that might not work. So, let me see. That's brave. Hopefully this is... Yep, that's fine. So do put any questions in the comments if you have any. I'm no expert, but another thing that is very useful when drawing is to move quickly, because when you are working from instinct, when you're working from the part of your brain that is good at drawing, as not very verbal, is instinctual. That doesn't work. Well, it really helps quiet the analytical verbose part of your brain, because it likes going step by step. It doesn't necessarily like moving quickly and instinctively. So, if things aren't working out, tends to be good practice to speed up. And you'll also tend to towards slowing down. Don't do that. Find yourself slowing down, speed up again. Now, all of this advice only applies to the kind of initial first draft sketch of things. Of course, there's a time for slow, methodical editing and doing things carefully and properly, but that time is not until later. So I'm going to try to get kind of a two-tone submarine going here. And none of these are going to be final lines. This is simply a sketch that we're going to turn semi-transparent later on and draw over. It is extremely helpful at this time, when you're drawing a three-dimensional object, to think of the volumes of the different pieces of your object rather than just the line around it. It's not something that particularly comes naturally, but it is very helpful. Oftentimes helpful to think of them in terms of simple objects. So this is kind of like a box. It's a little bit tapered. I'm going to taper it a little more. And it's narrow at one end, so I can kind of cut through the water. This is kind of a fin. And this definitely has too many windows for a submarine, but fantasy submarines have to have more windows than real submarines, because you need to be able to see what's going on outside. Even though in a real submarine, glass tends to not be the best idea. So we've kind of got a lot of the nice bus features started in here. Oh, also mirrors would be awesome. Just kind of like little side mirrors. And this is the great thing about working in a ridiculous fantasy world. These things don't even have to make sense. They just have to look good. You know, or be funny. Like windshield wipers. Windshield wipers. I mean, it could make a bit of twisted sense. You know, underwater, but mostly, I mean, if you have though, it's going to be a little bit difficult to communicate. These are windshield wipers adequately, so I think I'm going to just cut them. These windshield wipers only look like windshield wipers when they're actually active. We're going to have another window that is kind of just continuing this line of windows here. But it's really more for looks than for functionality. Tiny little window. Okay, I'm liking the shape of this. I don't really like whatever this thing is. But we do want our propeller to be right here. Propeller going to be difficult to draw, although this could be from the side. So propeller about right there. Okay. Now, of course, we've got a problem with our design, and sometimes this can, even in a fantasy world, thinking about the practicalities of something. Also, this is completely the wrong angle. No. That's one of the main reasons that one of the big advantages of sketching something out is you can easily change things when they're wrong. If you spend a lot of time honing and refining a fin on a sub, then you realize it's the wrong angle, you're much less likely to actually change it later. So work quick, get things right, zoom out pretty often so you can have a look at the whole thing. So now we're thinking about this the three-dimensionality of this fin, and it's actually kind of going to be a box with sides that slope out. I think that's kind of cool. And it comes down here, and I would imagine we want this fin to be where the submarine rests when it is landed somewhere. So we kind of want a flat. In fact, we might even want like some sort of shock absorption or something like that, right? So we're going to go ahead and put just like a little foot down here with some kind of stuff in between to kind of set down on. I don't know why I said set down on. Sit on. My southern roots coming out. But we still have a problem with the design of the sub, because if we want to bring it out of the water for maintenance or something, then we don't want it sitting right on the propeller and bending it and breaking it. So we also need some kind of something back here. Well, I don't know if that's... I don't know what we could do that would look reasonable. Also, I think we need to angle this a little more. Do we? We could just have kind of like... I think whatever we do back here to hold it up, it's going to look weird. So maybe we could just kind of build a little... I'm not sure what to do with that. Maybe we don't need to worry about it. Maybe back here we have another kind of foot that will extend out and hold the submarine up whenever it's not in water. That seems reasonable. I mean, no one except myself will ever know or care, but it's good to address these things a little bit in your design. Even though we're doing something fantastic and silly, you can still have touches of realism that help. No. Help make the fantastic things more grounded. In fact, the more fantastic and ridiculous your story is, the more believable elements you need to kind of fight against that, or it becomes just too ridiculous. But if you fight against the content of what you're making with a style that is a little more grounded in the real world, let's say, then potentially you can... I'm not sure I'm liking this at all. See ya. What I would like is like an angled, curved piece of metal. Like that. But we still need lights. So, yes. Let's put a round light up there. That looks good. I'm also not entirely sure about these now. Let's see. I would also like something, some kind of big decal on the side. Big numbers or something, but that's a future problem. Okay. Yeah. Having difficulties with my software. My reference software. Okay. So the front is starting to get a little, reasonably developed. I can also sort of fill in the interior. Those are the windows across the way. Pilot's seat. Starfish stuck to the front. Although most likely those will be added through the course of play, so I'll probably ignore those, but I kind of like how they look. This area right up here needs some work, but I'm not sure what to do with it. I mean, the first thing to always consider is, can we just get rid of it and turn this into a cute little stubby. Oh, okay. Alright. It's a good principle there. If maybe you, if you're not sure what to do with the section, just remove it. See how it works without. And now what we have here is a very cute submarine. And we've solved the problem of the propeller, because it can just retract. So we can have a very clearly retractable kind of mechanical back here. Right? Cool. I kind of dig it. So now, really quickly, I am going to be looking up submarine propeller. So I know how to draw this. Because boy, is it a wonky shape to get right. Whole bunch of, yeah. That's kind of cool. Right, so just having a propeller hanging out there is not the proper way to do it. That's the cartoony way to do it. Proper way is to have kind of metal surrounding the propeller and keeping it safe from bumping into things or catching onto things. Now, we don't necessarily want this to be a safe submarine, because bad things happen. So this is this will be what's known as kind of a cheap submarine. Has this cool retractable propeller, but yeah, so this is just really difficult to get looking right. I think I might have to go the cartoony route. Because drawing propellers, they just never look believable to me. Unless we encase it in metal. And likely that's because I'm just not good at drawing things in general. Still looks super weird. If anyone knows how to draw propellers better than I, let me know. You can draw it for me. Because, of course, we can do the, like, 2-blade propeller. That is cartoony as anything. If we try to add kind of 2 more blades to it, one coming up towards the camera here and one going back, it already starts to look really weird. Besides, 4-blade propellers, not that common. So I don't know. I'll have to work on that later. Potentially. Or we could just encase it in metal like it's supposed to be. Let's try that. Never be afraid. Try something that might not work. So that's what I'm constantly doing. Okay, so we have kind of a metal enclosure. Hi, Mom. Thank you. So we have a metal enclosure for the propeller. There's kind of an opening so it can propel water, as propellers should and do. We can still have the kind of big pieces of machinery that could retract it into the body of the sub. I mean, we don't have enough room in the body of the sub now. Alas. Hold on. Hold on. I'm not liking this either, but let me think. There is more than one way to skin a sub. I'm thinking, if we're going to be unbelievable anyway, might as well go all the way. I think it works because it's very clearly retractable and slide, the different pieces can slide together. And it kind of just looks great, that shape, with the rest of the sub. You probably don't want to put rivets and stuff on it. Hold on, I've got an even better idea. So we don't want it sliding around wherever it wants, so we're going to have these pieces that rings or rims that will hold it in place, so this piece slides back into this piece. Then we get some of that nice, bolted metal looks going on here. And get some nice rust going later. And we have the retractable look, and we don't have to draw a propeller. We've done it, team. Blah, 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 sketch, sketch. Okay. I think that's good. Another thing would be maybe another smaller one up here. As kind of like a slow speed. I mean, there are probably two of them, but they're right next to each other up here, so you couldn't necessarily see them. It's kind of a slow speed propulsion and navigation. Be helpful to have a couple propulsion units that are offset from the center, so you can maneuver your submarine as you wish. Okay, I dig that. We also want some more lights, I think. So this seam around the top is going to now become useful, because we're going to add some more kind of floodlights, because that would be useful navigating in the deep, dark sea, to have lights all around it. Going to get rid of those starfish, because who needs them? I'm going to add a little bit more of an angle to the windshield, because I think that looks cool. Nope, hold on. This is where it is nice to have a computer, because I can just draw around a section and zoop, move it around. Now those lights are spaced poorly. Unless you don't need one on the front. Not at all. Okay, this is looking better. I don't really like the foot so much. Also, how is this a submarine? It doesn't have air tanks and stuff for surfacing or not surfacing. That is a bit of a problem. I mean, you can't always see them in a submarine, but I kind of like it when you can see them. Let me see. Yeah, because a lot of times it's just kind of the ballast tanks are just kind of surrounding the inner core of the submarine. Or they're in the nose and the tail. There's not a lot of room. Ooh, that's a cool submarine. Fantasy submarine. A lot of times fantasy submarines you have just big old tanks, which is kind of awesome. Oh, that's even cooler. That's a steampunk submarine. That is awesome. I wish you could see that. Just look for steampunk submarines, because they're cool. Submarine ballast tanks. Let's look those up. Yeah, of course, you know, having big old tanks on the outside of your submarine kind of destroys the aerodynamics, or I suppose hydrodynamics, of your submarine. So most submarines don't have them. But you know what? We don't care about reality. So maybe we should add a few tanks. But where to put them without destroying the cool profile of my submarine? What about... overlapping is good, by the way. On the side here, I think I'm going to redo this little fin thing here. Bye-bye, fin. Never just one tank, you want to have 2 tanks. You also want to have, you know, some danger signal symbols on them. But they aren't filled with explosive substances, are they? No, that would make no sense at all. Tanks. Okay, then what are we going to do about the kind of foot of the submarine? So that's looking cool. I would like to, could just draw it sticking out here, but I would like to see it where it is attached. That's kind of a... No. Nope, 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 nope. Well, I guess... So we're... You could always just land like that, couldn't you? But you'd still want some kind of footies. Just have some really basic ones sticking out here. I mean, they could retract too. You could just ignore them. Okay. Alright, I'm kind of digging the submarine. This submarine sketch. So, now we're going to knock the opacity down. That becomes our sketch. I tend to go as low as I can go, where I can still see the sketch, because then I have a little more freedom to just kind of make things up and I can really see what I'm drawing, which is handy. So now we are going to start with doing some line work. Go away, assistant. You're as annoying as Clippy. Fine. So, while doing line work, you're going to be seeing a whole lot of undoing, because I'm going to be working slower. I'm going to be more careful with my lines. I'm trying to get beautiful lines that describe the surface or the texture that I'm shooting for. So the original light here that I saw kind of has this cool grate over it, and it also has some little clips that hold it in place, which are kind of awesome. I'm going to do that. So this kind of is attached to the light itself. Put a little bolt to hold it in place. I dig it. And then the grate. Now, we could just draw lines over it like this, but that always looks and feels kind of bad. So I'm going to try to carefully draw kind of a simple grate over the top, because I think it'll look quite a lot better. And we can do that the lazy way by just drawing big thick lines and erasing. Just have to be careful with the erasure because you end up looking really sloppy. And also, first time out I made them all extremely not parallel to each other, but that's kind of fun. Why don't we just lean into that? We'll see if we can get this looking right. We might not be able to. Take out these cross beams to kind of make a cohesive mesh. Not going to try to alternate things or do anything too ridiculous, and that looks just about right. I mean, I like it, but I don't know that it reads as a light anymore. So bye-bye. I'm just going to draw the light again. Sometimes simplicity is best. Okay. Going to definitely make this a little bit of a ragtag, rusted out submarine, as a lot of the submarines in Sunken Dungeon will be, because you're kind of underdogs always. Okay, so do we want bolts? Do we want... you know, rivets, stripes, numbers? Stop. Quit. I think a nice little stripe would be kind of cool. Potentially. Yeah, just subtle. And then we can have a few, like, maybe some little subtle plates. Subtle. Everything's subtle today, apparently. With some little subtle rivets holding it together with subtlety. It's the light hand. You have to have a light hand when designing fantasy submarines, because otherwise they're just not believable. Right, and the metal is going to be, you know, a bit pockmarked and beat up just a bit. Not completely trashed, because when you play the Sunken Dungeon on Kickstarter soon, you will be potentially completing the trashing of your semi-lousy sub. So I don't want to do your whole job for you. Yeah, but it's important when doing line work to remember what the line is supposed to describe. There was one of the great old Disney animators who did hand-drawn animation who talked about that. There's really nothing here. And we can put another line here. We talked about lazy lines versus kind of active lines that really describe what you're drawing. And it takes a lot more time and mental effort to kind of think through how, let's say in this case, how the metal you're drawing is weathered or the ways that it is curved and attached together. But you end up with quite a lot better, more believable result. So I guess we put a seam here. Why? And here we're describing glass, so we're going to have to try to get the smoothest line possible. Not bad. Then back to metal. Now these kind of look like repairs now, which I don't hate. And occasionally we'll just have like paint missing. Which actually like there's a little dent when paint is missing, you know, so we have the line deviate slightly for where the paint is, and that just adds more realistic texture to the paint. I think probably we're not going to draw this whole line that is encompassing the lights. We're just going to suggest it. Also, this line is too perfect up here. This is the top of the sub, and you've ran it into a million things. Too much. And you've left it out, you know, in the harbor, and it's been rained on, so there's going to be paint missing. Really, you know, quite an irresponsible kid. And we're just going to have a suggestion of this seam because it should be really tight. We're going to have a round, kind of a polished metal ring around the light itself. And the light just going to have some subtle lines in there, which I need to do up here too, although the light needs to be a little recessed. I don't like those. So you have to be careful when doing line work that you don't just fall into doing cross-hatching or hatching accidentally, because it can be easy to do. So now we're going to use some digital duplication, and we'll you know, change this up here a little bit, but I like to save time when I can. I think 3 is better. Because, okay, if any of you out there are, no. Nope. Okay. Sketch. Organize your layers. Organize your layers, because I am terrible at it. I always tend to get in the soup, not organizing things properly. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, cheating. So there tends to be an idea with folks who fancy themselves creative, like me and possibly you if you're watching. And there tends to be this idea that if everything doesn't come directly and purely from your own brain, that it's somehow cheating or stealing or something. And that's hogwash. Because to create anything of value, you need a whole ton of input from other places. And it only becomes a stealing, only becomes a problem if you copy or if you just steal from one source. Kind of like that, but these are... Oops. Nope. No? Huh. Select. I'm confused. Just trying to flip the layer horizontal. Can you just let me have this affinity, please? Clearly my shortcuts are no longer working. Doop. There, that looks a lot better. This too. So the plates up here, I was for some reason drawing them skewed in the wrong direction. Organize your layers, children. It's very important. So they did no longer look right. They don't look right anymore. So we're flipping them and we're just tilting them a little bit to get them to follow that curvature a little bit better. This is a really patchwork looking sub. I kinda dig it. The lines might be a little too fine when I finally look at them, so we might have to flesh some of them out in the future, but let's just get the basics down, okay? Okay, so now we want to look at, so this kind of consistency, this piece of metal going along here looks pretty good. This up here is not quite right. So we really want the windows to all line up pretty well. There. Oh, also we want a rear view mirror. Of course. Because why not? Fuzzy dice. Fuzzy dice. Nope, one doesn't go 1-2. Let's see. Yeah, it does. My instincts were correct. 1, 2, 3. Totally fine. Yep. Alright. By the way, if anyone is watching this and you have questions about what I'm doing or about things in general, remove. Then let me know. And that'll do my best to answer them. I'm glad. Let's see. Mac and I love this drawing. I'm glad you like it. It's coming along. It's turning out significantly different than I thought it would, as things usually do. Have just kind of the suggestion of like a really comfy padded seat here, I think. That'll be fine. Also, got to think about just a little bit of a thing there. Also, block out some of this with a nice shiny sheen. That gets a little messy. We'll have to address that later. So, let's see. I think having, as far as the design of the sub goes, having this come up like that, and then so that this piece of metal kind of stays consistent, but then we have a problem with this where we need to actually chop this corner off a little bit. And this bows inwards a bit much, perhaps. So I kind of like that, but then we'll have to add kind of another piece here. Actually, this could be kind of like a potentially like a mud guard, except instead of mud it's like rocket fuel or whatever's coming out of this giant cannon in the back. I know it would make no sense to be blasting fuel out of. I know. And this needs to be cut back because it needs to be attached to the body of the submarine. Okay. Alright. I'm a little bit back in sketching mode, so I need to be thinking about details and line work a little better. But I don't hate... Oh, hold on. Why am I going behind that? For some reason I thought that was the tanks. Oops. So if it's coming down at an angle, we probably just want it like coming down and then making contact with the round surface of the tanks. Kind of, you know, they cut that away to fit around the tank. Except this is not quite right. We'll see how that looks. Ideally, I would have worked this out beforehand when I was still sketching, but sometimes you have to go back and forth. No. Nope. I prefer if we did something more like this. Alright. Now what I'd really like to see is kind of like if we took this and we kind of turned it into a little bit of a repetition. Where each one kind of gets smaller. Yeah, that's starting to look like something, maybe. Okay, but then we have a problem. The problem is bottom of these fins here are just kind of hanging out. They're not really part of the design of the submarine. Let's see. Let's merge down. Command E. Oh, I've got that rebound. I need to rebind that to be something else, because clearly I need it. So what do we want? We kind of want another piece of metal that is enclosing these, perhaps? Kind of have them actually affect the design of the sub. Will help it feel less just kind of tacked on. And how are they attached? We've already set a precedent of attaching things with little plates. What if we had them? I mean, I like how that's looking, but I'm not sure how to solve the problem of this end. Yeah, because I need to think about them three-dimensionally. So if they're kind of curved pieces of metal, which they're kind of looking like that, or they're coming up here and curving, and they attach on the other side of the ship too, and they're kind of, first of all, this is not okay. So that kind of cuts into the engine. So we want them to have be a little closer together and a little higher. Maybe just have two. Oh, I know what we could do. Get rid of the corner down here. Right? And have that just curve around. That kind of looks better. Now, learn from my mistakes. I really should have gone back to my sketch layer and fixed this in the sketch. Because this is going to be a little rougher. Going to need some refinement. Right? Okay. And then, I don't think this is working. But what will work is having this metal curve around and then so hopefully that will provide some sort of, also these lines no good, and this isn't quite right. Some kind of way for our eye to understand intuitively how this is attached to the submarine and how it's kind of curving around the back. I think that works. Except this angle is wrong, isn't it? What I really want is something like that, yeah? That works for now. We're gonna leave that. I might revisit that later. Okay, then we're gonna do the tanks. Again, 'tis important to remember the surface we're drawing. Kind of a metal texture. Where the seams are, there's typically a bit of a curvature in the tank, which helps sell that as a seam and not just a line drawn on the tank. Hold on, what can I do here? That's right. Duplication. Except new layer, new layer. We're going to change its size a little bit. I'm going to erase and redraw some stuff because it tends to show up like a sore thumb when you've duplicated something like this, and it looks flat too. So it's a nice basis for not having to draw something again completely from scratch. I just want to take the most obvious points of duplication and redraw them. And I'll need to look up tanks. I think potentially we have we want, some valves or something. I need to get my keyboard shortcuts worked out. Clearly something's gone wrong. Something like a little flexible metal tubing here. Nope. That goes into the side of the submarine. That looks good. Also, how are they attach to the submarine? That's a problem. We're going to try to do metal strip. Yep. Same rules as before. You want to rotate, resize, redraw anything that you don't duplicate by hand. And yeah, why would you duplicate if you have to redraw everything? But it makes it a lot easier to get all the sizes right and not make a silly mistake when you're redrawing it. So it's just a time saver. And the kind of clear duplication might not bother you if you're drawing, in which case, duplicate away. I just don't like it. Nope. Also, these, what's wrong with these? They are a little bit two-dimensional. But I'm gonna leave them for now. Cool. That's looking good. I don't really like how they come up and are flat against the tank. That is laziness inexcusable. These things are not flat. And they come down here and are not flat either. Or here. Now these ones I can get away with because they're kind of going under the other tank. So there's a hard line there, but other ones need to be three-dimensional. Dagnabbit. Alright. Also, we need another seam to break up this metal a little bit right here. In case we need to erase this juncture here to make it look like real metal. Redraw that line and draw a new line going this way. And what? We need to have a lovely little fastening plate here. Also, we need to get more detailing and like some more missing paint. Cool. Alright, back to the engines now. Draw the engines and then we'll be able to wrap this up. And knock it on the head. So what am I going to do? First I'm going to draw one of these rims. Quite separately. Nope, that's wrong. Right. Then we're going to take this and copy paste it everywhere we can. Right away. In this way we save ourselves some time and headaches getting things properly sized later. Well, I think potentially the rings will have to get slightly smaller to look right. This needs to be slightly longer. Cool, and then we draw the metal. Now it doesn't really make sense to have a curve like that, but I'm going to ignore that. Duplication. Now this is obvious duplication. So we'll want to offset it a little bit so it looks like it's in the background, and we'll want to redraw some things. At least add some details that make it a little less obviously duplicated. In here, but not back there. Okay. Cool. Now we're going to draw this one here. Now this would be a good spot to kind of use digitally produced straight lines, perhaps, but I tend to try to draw things imperfectly for kind of a wonky fun look. Especially with the Cloud Dungeon, Sunken Dungeon books. So it makes everything a little more hand-drawn and quirky and fun. Which I kind of like. Let's smoosh this just a little bit. Copy it out here. And get it in position. This one is a little weird now. Need some skewing. Okay. Now the lines do get smaller, which is part of the reason that we have to do a little bit of tracing if it looks too weird. And can rightfully question whether this duplication is saving me time, but I think it does for the most part. Go with that one. That doesn't work. Boom. And then we have... Nope. Kind of the nested layers of metal back there that will... Okay, cool. Also, I think some just really slight seams on this metal will help it read as metal that rubs against other metal quite a bit. So it's going to keep shiny, not really rusty, and sliding back in and out like that. So I kind of dig that. Just add a little bit of texture to it. That looks right. I'm going to make this rim over here properly decorated. Good. And this one as well. Okay. No, actually that wouldn't be, that would be more metal then. Well, it's a questionable thing. Okay. Cool. There's still some details that need to happen, like we need to get this metal a little more consistently patched together and weathered. Some more of these little fellas in there. But I'm pretty pleased with that. Delete the sketch layer. That will be a fun submarine to destroy. We also need a second seat in there. There's quite a bit left to do, but pretty solid. Thank you for joining me for this live drawing event extravaganza. I'll probably be drawing more of these in the future, so keep an eye on this space, and thanks for watching.